Welcome to Intimate Conversations, where we support you healing heartbreak so that you can live fully embodied, unapologetically, and deliciously free, being exactly who you are. I'd be honored if you'd please subscribe if you haven't yet already, and definitely share us with a dear friend. Okay, you luscious creature, it is time to get intimate. Hello, you delicious people. It's Alana Banana here for another episode of Intimate Conversations with a woman I instantly fell in love with. We've done 2 IG lives. I'm like, but I want more. I want more of her. So I've brought the incredible Kirby Budz. Am I saying it right, sweetheart? Budz, B-U-D.
That sure is it. Yeah.
All right, awesome. To our show today, let me tell you all about her bio. I want you to also know that she has a membership. The waitlist is now open. So we've got a lot of things to share with you today. So here we go. She is a leader in self-mastery and in energetics and higher consciousness. And through her programs and the membership that I just mentioned and coaching and mentorship, she helps spiritual seekers raise their frequency to attract their desires. And her training is in spiritual psychology, NLP, energy medicine, Reiki healing, emotional intelligence, breath work, and IFS, if you know what that is, internal family systems therapy. And she's really able to provide her clients with a wide range of proven modalities and techniques to heal on the deepest level and really step into their power as a master creator here on Mother Gaia. Her mission is to help women remember the power they hold within and live a divine, aligned, magical life. And so there's your professional bio. And my experience, Kirby, as we met, is you get it. You're deep, you're vulnerable, you're real, you're in service, you're willing to do what's hard, and you're willing to honor your truth. So I adore you. I'm really glad you're here today. And how's the baby?
Baby, good. I also adore you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for all the kind words. Baby is great. She's at 5 months and now teething. And it's just, the most insane journey I've ever been on. But very grateful for all of the work and healing that I've done in my life prior to having her, because boy, does a child test you on every single level.
Oh, yes, yes. Let's just go a little deeper there for a second. So the nipples?
Yeah, the breastfeeding is just so intense, and just also like holding so much space for somebody where you are literally their everything. And like, it's my partner and I talk about this all the time because he's done a lot of healing himself as well. And consciously parenting is so much more difficult than just like being a parent.
Like just spank him and shove him in the closet. That doesn't work anymore.
It's like we are hyper aware that she is watching every single thing that we're doing, and every little piece kind of makes it, it's like, what's my energy like around her? What am I doing where she physically is seeing me? What am I emotionally at? Like, how am I emotionally responding? Am I, I'm trying not to be in the place of like good, bad, where we're like, good job, bad. It's like, we're really trying to do this in a very conscious way. And it is being hyper aware all the time, and it's tiring. It is hard. And then my partner and I both work from home. We both have our own businesses. So like being like business person and then super conscious mom person, and then also like taking care of your own inner self and everything. I mean, it is just like, it's been so insane, like just trying to navigate all that. And she's only 5 months old, it's like, this is like the next 20 years, 30, 50 years, I'll be her mother. And doing all of this. I mean, it's just like the most insane thing that you don't think of all those levels. I mean, we were pretty aware, prior to having baby, but when you're really in it, you're like, oh my gosh, like what have I actually done here?
Yes. And there's no going back.
No, I'm like, this is my baby. I can't give her away now,
Let me ask you 2 things. How is the personal self-care going? And how's the intimacy with your partner going? Because, I mean, it just used to be so easy. We could just do it anytime. I could just go for a walk anytime I felt like it, right?
Girl, let me tell you, I took it for granted. Oh my gosh. I will say, though, I haven't been perfect in my personal self-care. I mean, I have a pretty extensive self-care process, but I have committed to doing little things throughout the day for myself, because
Yeah.
if I don't, I plummet.
Yeah.
I need to have some grounding rituals that really bring myself back to myself, and I can really just be with myself, be with my thoughts, because I'm also a hyper independent person. So having somebody who directly like relies on me for every single thing, and it is harder for mothers than fathers, especially when you're breastfeeding, because I am her source of nurture and food supply, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
even more pressure. But yeah, I have been adamant. My partner and I have been pretty good. Now she's a little bit older, once we got past the 3 month mark, where we could kind of break up our days, and he'll have a chunk that he'll work, I'll watch her, I'll have a chunk and I'll work and he'll watch her.
Mm.
But even in the chunk that I'm supposed to be working, I still have to pop back out to breastfeed, all right? Because it's like, again, there's so much pressure on the mother.
Mm.
But when I'm in my chunk, the first hour, I always come back to my rituals. I have to do a little bit of journaling. I need to see what's going on. I need to check in with myself, because if I don't check in with myself, I'm not good for him and I'm not good for her. And there
Yeah.
has been times where it's been multiple days that have built up and I didn't have the check in, and I suffer. And I can't be good to her if I'm suffering, and I can't be good to him if I'm suffering.
I'm
So if
crunchy and cranky when I don't check in with myself. I just, yeah.
yes. Even prior to coming onto this call, I had, we had a quick switch, but I had 10 minutes. I sat here in my heart space. I had beautiful music playing, and I allowed myself to like really recenter. And yes, would it be great for us to have 3 solid hours every day where we can just like do all the things? Absolutely. That would be phenomenal for all of us, but that's just not realistic. You got to
Yeah.
take those tiny micro moments and make the most of them. It's like I'm cooking breakfast, I'm allowing myself to be in that heart space for myself. Or if I'm in these tiny, like I said, the 10 minutes I have before this, no, let's connect with the heart. Don't scroll on the phone. Like
Yes.
acknowledge your habits and bring them back to a place of those tiny moments throughout your day, or build up and make a huge difference in how your day is going and how you're feeling. And you just have to be aware of those, and how you can manage them and utilize them to their best ability and to their highest level in that small moment that you have.
Yeah. Thank you. I remember the first time I did a coaching call and they were like 15 minutes late. And normally I would have just made it an hour and made it later, but I had another call and I couldn't do it. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to give value, and what's going to happen? And I was like, you know what? And I just made the choice. We're going to get an hour's worth of value in 45. Here we go. The same idea with motherhood. I got 10 minutes. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to like suck the marrow out of these 10 minutes. And
Yeah,
it can't, I mean, 3 hours is of course decadent, but it can still nourish you.
absolutely.
It can work. Yeah.
And also not striving for perfection. It's like, and we have to make it realistic. And you understand too, because you're coaching, like giving somebody a 20 plus list of things to do, that's overwhelming. It's not so realistic for some people. Being like, hey, here's these small little things you can try and incorporate throughout your day. That makes it much easier. Instead of me sitting for 30 minutes in the morning implementing a gratitude practice, every time I go to the bathroom, I express gratitude. Every time I take a sip of my water, I express gratitude. I implement it throughout my day so that I'm not like having to feel like I have to do all these things in order to like be this, whatever kind of person, I really just implementation and make it work in your life, not add on extra things to be doing.
Yeah. How have you felt about your bound sugar bound, like your sex appeal? Like when I had really big tits and I didn't have a baby to take care of, I just had a really big belly. I didn't
Yeah.
give a shit. I had my ice cream and my big tits and I felt like so sexy. And then I felt really fat.
Uh,
And I had hormones, like I had acne all over my shoulders after the hormones were doing their thing, and my nipples were leaking. And I mean, I did not feel sexy whatsoever. And then don't you even think about going anywhere down there. Hurts like a mofo, right? And then, but there's needs, there's desires, there's partners. Like, how you doing with the whole sex thing?
so first of all, I hated pregnancy, and I didn't feel beautiful in my pregnancy probably until my last 2 months, but that's when a lot of my really intense symptoms lifted. So
Oh,
I felt like I was finally able to feel a bit beautiful like in my last 2 months, which is usually when most people are like, I'm so through this, but I was like bedridden in like 4 weeks. So like I
really?
had a really difficult pregnancy. Like the first 7.5 months were just awful. And I literally was like, I'm never doing this again. It was so brutal.
Wow.
But I was able to embrace a bit, and there was a lot. The other thing too is pregnancy is deeply healing. One of the things I had learned from my acupuncturist, he was like, pregnancy is like a 10-month ayahuasca ceremony. Like if you really lean in, like the deep emotions that you're experiencing will bring up those wounds that you're having.
Yes.
Like the
Well
mother
said.
wound will come forth, the fears, the worries, the insecurities. And let me tell you, it sure did. And all those days I was trapped in my bed, I had all this brewing and I was like, where did this come from? I've been on the healing journey for years. I've healed, so much. Oh, no, 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 no. Like pregnancy will throw it in your face.
Yeah.
So a lot of deep healing happened. But then by the time I got to my last 2 months, I had done a decent amount of healing, which I was grateful for. But I started to really embrace my divine feminine. And I've always really been hyper masculine. And this has really kind of been a coping mechanism of mine because of just feeling I had to be strong and power, right? Like having that softer feminine side wasn't really an option for me.
Mm.
So that was really nice in my last 2 months of pregnancy. And I always had been a little bit busty, but let me tell you, like my boobs were just like explosion, they were overtaking my belly. I was just like, this is insane. Like these,
I rest my chin on them. I felt like that's what I felt
like insane. And so then when I gave birth, we have the craziest photos. My boobs were like so ginormous compared to my little baby's head. I was like, I don't even know. I feel like I'm gonna crush her with this boob. Like, holy crap. And then I will tell you, the first 2 months, I felt disgusting. I
like.
felt like a milk cow, like just
Yeah.
always sticky with milk. My boob, they didn't feel like appealing anymore. They were just like I had, with the feeding and all that stuff, right? And
Yeah.
and again, yeah, like my belly just felt like I still have a little bit of a belly, which I'm grateful for because of, I'm embracing it because of the beautiful breast milk that I'm creating, and large fat in the belly and the hips and the butt creates fatter milk for your baby. And so there is actually a good reasoning behind it and why you don't need to have this whole bounce back thing because
Yeah, you can enjoy the voluptuousness.
yeah, but it's like I immediately went from like 2 months at the end of my pregnancy to finally feeling like this vibrancy and this radiance to then the first 2 months of like giving birth and just feeling like a disgusting cow, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't even want
Yeah.
to compare. And like you said, then all of a sudden you have all this like hyper awareness of your vagina and like what's going on down there.
Yeah.
Um, and then through that, I mean, I have re-fallen in love with my partner through watching him as a father with our child. I mean, he is an amazing man, but his dream was always to become a father. Like he has said that like he has achieved his greatest goal by becoming a father. Like he is such a sensitive man who's just so nurturing and loving and caring and giving, and he's
Wow.
Spanish and he is just has so much like love radiating through him. And it has been so amazing watching him as a father. Like it's exceeded my expectations. Like I mean, it's just been mind blowing. And it just every time I see him with her and I see him and he's doing these things, like he takes care of us. He really does in such a
Wow.
nurturing way. It's mind blowing. And it's like I said, it's made me fall in love with him so deeply. And I want to jump his bones all the time. To be honest, we're not. We've had sex, I think, a couple times now. And it's just because we're so tired and we both run businesses. And like, it's like all the time, I'm constantly like more handsy with him than I've ever been. I'm grabbing his butt and I'm hugging, right? All this stuff. And it's like, there's so much, there's not like there's sexual tension between us, but it's like when you get down to the nitty gritty, it's like, when are we having sex? It's like we have a baby and just the two of us and we're business and all these, and it's like, so it's something we haven't been able to find a balance yet. And I'm hoping we will get back because I mean, that's the thing too. We both always worked from home together. I loved afternoon sex with him. We would like, it was our favorite at like 2 p.m. when everyone's on lunch break, we would have sex during the day and we just like loved it. It was the best ever. We didn't want to have sex at night. We don't have sex in the morning, but like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was like the best time ever to have sex. So I'm hoping we can get to a point where we can, if it's not a daily thing, but we can bring back that because again, and I think it's been the same for him too. He has fallen more in love with me and he's so deeply attracted to me and this motherly figure, right? And my body's changed and all this stuff. And he loves it. He's always, expressing his adoration for me. But the physical, actual act has not actually been happening.
Got it. Thank you for being so honest about
Yeah,
it all.
I'm very open, I don't
Yeah,
care.
no, so am I. So this is awesome. And to know that you're falling in love with each other on a more deep level and that attraction level. And then
Yeah,
there's the humor of, okay, like when are we gonna schedule this in? Nap time. Nap
literally.
time, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like 2 o'clock needs to be trained in for the nap time so
It's
that
like,
you can
when's the baby's afternoon nap? Like, when can we like make this happen?
totally, totally. But what do you find also about, yes, I really love a great genital copulation. And yet intimacy is more than just the meeting of body parts. And it sounds like your sensuality or your foreplay or all the other ways to really richly, meaningfully, deeply connect are alive,
Yeah,
which is great because sometimes that completely shuts down. And often women, moms complain, I just feel like I'm a cow over here and I'm a piece of meat over here. And
yeah.
like, right. But it sounds like that's not what's occurring for you. So bravo.
Yeah, I will say I'm very grateful for that. And I think that that's also maybe made it feel like this aspect of not physically having sex hasn't happened because as much as we'd like, because we are still very affectionate with each other. And I think the bigger thing there is like we really adore each other. And he and I are very different people. I had a lot of different thoughts about like partners prior to like meeting him, and that, you want to like all the same things or like be so similar and all these things. Like he and I are very, very different.
Mm.
What is similar between us is that we have the same values, but
Yeah.
we don't like the same music. We don't like the same food. We don't like the same movies. Like, we like completely different things, but we just accept whatever the person likes. And when that person wants to share with the things that they like, we're like, okay, I'll do it for you because you like it. And then when I want to share my things, he's like, okay, great. But like, we don't like the same things. We both have completely separate interests, but we just respect the other person because that's what they like. And who cares? Like, they don't need to like my thing. It doesn't matter. And then when the person wants to share that thing, then we're just like, okay, that's what you want to do or whatever it is. There's
Yeah.
a deep respect and adoration for each other, and just our values align, and we just honor and accept each other as is the big
Mm.
thing. Like, neither one of us is ever trying to change each other, but I will say we both have done a lot of healing, and we did a lot of healing individually prior to coming together, and being
Yeah. Of
together we are still doing
course.
individual healing. We've
Yeah.
never ever stopped doing healing. Like, we're very, very healing forward. you know
Yes. Well, I think, but that's to me, that's healthy and that's reality. You
and
never, you never get there. So I know that we've talked briefly, like on the IG lives that we've done, but for this audience, they might not know of your story
yeah.
and where you grew up and your family and leaving and how you met him, etc. And so if you could kind of give them that backstory, and then if you could end with, and here are the values that we actually align on. So
Absolutely.
what do you mean by that? Yeah.
So I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I'm one of 6 kids that came from the same parents, and we were all born within 10 years of each other. So pretty close together,
Yeah.
all me and my siblings. And I think 2 sets of us are like Irish twins, which we were born like back to back, 11, 12 months in between. Just insane. After now having my own child, I'm like, what kind of crack was my mom smoking? You know what I mean? And so the biggest thing about family is, especially, I mean, I think everybody gets to this place potentially in their life, or maybe you never get there. You don't know that there's anything wrong with your family because all you know is your family,
Yeah.
right? You don't know how other people's families are. You
Yeah.
really know your family.
Mhm.
So I've always been very independent, very outgoing. I started sewing when I was 11 years old, and that's what really got me excited about like clothing and fashion. And I moved to New York City by myself when I was 20 to pursue that. And no one had ever left like my hometown. Like, everyone had, like, my whole family had always like lived in this suburban town or whatever. So me
Yeah.
leaving was like a huge deal. And I didn't know anybody there. And I came from like a working class family. So I worked my way up from nothing to being very successful and becoming a fashion designer at Ralph Lauren. And
Nice.
it was in this time that I was living in New York City. I was about 25 years old, is when I met my partner, Pablo. And we actually met on Tinder, which is hilarious. Um,
Wow.
this was
spirituality met on Tinder. That's good.
yeah, it's so funny. Well, I was so deeply different than I am now because again, I was living really out of alignment, but me even working in the fashion industry was a big egoic
Mm.
thing because again, it always stems back to childhood and family, but in growing up in such a large family, when I started sewing at 11 years old, that is what made me seen in my family.
Yes.
And it gave me like I finally had like a thing, you know, and I started getting attention from my parents because I like had this separate different thing than like my other siblings. So that became like my label. And like each one of my siblings has like when I look back now and I've looked at I'm like, oh, my parents ended up giving each of us kind of like a label, unconsciously doing this, but like that's like their thing. And that was the thing that like got me attention. And our innate things as humans is right. We want to be seen, heard, and loved. And when you're in these large families, and I'm also a middle child, so the middle child syndrome is a total thing, you know, you're overlooked and stuff. Of course, unconsciously, I'm feeling like, oh, well, if I do this thing, it makes me successful, it makes me seen, it makes me known, right? All these things, right? So me going to work in New York City, I thought that by achieving this dream of mine, that was going to take away all of my problems, right? That I started having severe anxiety and depression when I was 21 years old. But I thought like, no, well, when I get to when my dream happens, that will just go away, right? But no, because I wasn't living in alignment with my soul. I was living from this place of my ego to fill a void because my soul was suffering, right? Like I wasn't being seen and understood in my life, you know?
Myself, yeah.
Exactly. So we met again, my whole 20s, I was living completely out of alignment. There was red flag after red flag just showing up everywhere to tell me like, listen, you're not living, right? Like, what are you doing? But I just like pretended like they didn't exist. You know what I mean? The deeper you resist your red flags, man, oh my gosh, like, you know.
Hit you like a Mack truck, yeah.
Oh, no. And it did. So anyways, mid-20s, he and I met on Tinder. I had just gotten out of 2 narcissistic abusive relationships, which completely mirror my father that I grew up with. So again, yeah, all of that, you attract in what you know. That's what I knew. I met him and I actually, back when we were 25, we're 34 now, I had a really hard time. He was amazing for me. The same way that he is now, even though he hadn't done the levels of healing that he's done, he was so great towards me compared to these other narcissistic guys. Yeah. But I didn't know how to accept his affection and love and all those things because I was so wounded. Like I actually like was so resistant, and that's what your body does when you are carrying so much trauma and stuff within it. The good thing actually feels like a threat, and then the things that are a real threat feel normal to you because that's what's normal. Exactly.
I get it.
So we only ended up dating for about 10 months after that because I was really suffering with severe anxiety and depression very, very badly. And this was when I was at the end of my 25. So I was almost 26. And it was bad. It was very brutal. And I was living in New York City. And again, I was working in my job and I kept asking myself like, well, why, you know, like, why am I not happy? Right? I have all these things.
Yes.
Society told me to get, right? I've got the job, got the money, right? I'm living in New York City. This is everything I've ever wanted. And I hate my life and I want to jump in front of a subway, you know, like I was bad. And then I realized that like, I actually don't like being a fashion designer. Like,
okay.
You know, it started my health, everything was just plummeting. Like, and again, like you will be thrust out of whatever you're in if you are completely living from a complete egoic state and not in alignment. My health was tanking. I hated my job, like relationships everything was just falling. It was crumbling in. In my end of my 20s, I decided, all right, I'm going to leave New York City. I'm going to leave the fashion industry. My health is absolutely plummeting. I moved back to Chicago to be closer to my family because I thought that after 10 years of living in New York City by myself, the reason why I felt so incomplete was because I missed my family, because my whole family lived back in the Chicago area. Oh, they must be feeling, right? I must miss my family. Oh my God. No, I moved back by my family and got diagnosed with chronic illness. Again, then I was really faced as an adult with like the mirrors of like my childhood trauma, right? It all came to a head or whatever. Wow. Long story short, had this huge spiritual awakening and then got thrust into the arena that I'm currently now in. And I'm the happiest I've ever been, right? I'm finally living in alignment with my soul, and I did years and years of healing and all that stuff. But the fact is, to get back to my partner and how we reconnected, we went our separate ways, and he lived in LA, and he was, working in high with doing great stuff in his career. And I was in New York City, then I left New York City, and we both, there was no beef between us. When we broke up, I literally broke up with him. I broke up with him because I literally told him, I am struggling with anxiety and depression. Like I'm not okay. I don't know what to do. I'm not okay. And so there was never any bad blood between us. We had casually kept in contact over like the years. We saw each other like 2 or 3 times. But there was no bad blood. Whereas with my other like narcissistic exes, I was like, you can go to hell. Like, don't ever come near me again, But with him, I was just like, I wish him nothing but the best. Great guy, like didn't work out, right? So, and that was like very nice. That was a big thing for me after having come from so many bad relationships.
Yeah.
2020 happens, and actually prior to that, I think in 2018, he started dating a woman, and he thought that he was gonna marry her, and they were together for a really long time, but it was more of a trauma bond because there was just a constant amount of like things not working out with them, and there was always like these insecurities and things that she had from her past, and it just, their relationship was constantly rocky or whatever. And he kept thinking like, if I was with Kirby, like he tells me that I was always in the back of his mind. And this just also goes to show you how sensitive and just beautiful this man is, because he kept every single thing that I ever had given him in the short time that we dated. Like every little token, he had all my old text messages, all our old photos, I had none of that. I was like the woman, right? I didn't have anything. I had none of that stuff. He kept like every single little token from us. And then he realized, and this happened with a lot of people in 2020, we got forced. He was like, this woman wanted to move in with him. And he was like, I like cannot live with this woman, right? Like, I don't want to be with her. And then his friend asked him, is like, if it was Kirby, would you move in with her? And he was like, absolutely, in a heartbeat. And so he realized like, I can't continue this relationship because I want to see if like something can work with Kirby. And me, I had been on this spiritual alchemist journey of like literally trusting all of the guidance from my intuition. I'm like driving all over the country. I'm flying to Bali. I'm going to all these places, right? Doing all this stuff. I'm living super in alignment with my soul. My business is booming and everything's just like happening easily for me because I'm finally living in alignment. And he starts listening to my podcast. And like then he started like following me on social or whatever. And then he reached out to me, and I was like, no, like I don't want to reconnect. This was January 2021. And I didn't tell him that. He literally reached out to me in the beginning of 2021.
Why?
Well, for me, I felt I had known him in my, like, I felt like my past life, like being my fashion designer. I felt like that was my past life. Yes, there are aspects of who I am now, but I don't even know who that person was, like I cannot relate to her at all. And in my head, he's in love with her, right? He's not in love with me and my most aligned, authentic state. Like, I don't know who she is. I don't know who you love. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get it.
And I just also felt like I had really closed the door on like my past life in this lifetime, my egoic life. And I was so clear and certain on everything that I was doing, and everything was working out great in my life. And I had been single for 7.5 years, and in this, that was the biggest piece here, was that I did not want to get into a relationship until I was certain of the type of person that I wanted.
Yeah.
That I was at the level to be with that person, right? Yeah. I wanted to be in this divine partnership. I wanted like, all of the amazing parts of it, but I had to get to that point, right? If I didn't do the healing, I wouldn't have gotten there, and I wouldn't have even known what was even possible for me. My self-worth was in the shitter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was just immediately like, I had no bad blood with him. He sent me a text message, and I was like, in my head when I saw it, I was like, no. And I know the energetics of things. Obviously, this is my world. And I was like, I'm setting a firm boundary with the universe energetically here that like, I'm saying no to this because I'm expecting something bigger and grander, whatever, or like a more aligned partner. Because again, I also had this viewpoint that he was exactly how he was when I knew in our mid-20s, you know what I mean?
conclusions on both directions. Yeah.
Exactly. So he messaged me again after that, and I was like, no, like I just don't want to do this. And I felt also too, I was in such a place of strong self-worth. I was like, I don't owe anybody anything. I don't have to reply to him. I don't want to reply. I don't care. I don't owe him anything, and I don't want to reply. I felt like I didn't have to do anything for him. And the other reason is too is a year prior when I had started out embarking on my alchemist journey, I was going to be in Southern California, and I messaged him saying, oh, hey, I'm going to be in Southern California. If you want to get together, let me know. And for me, it was completely platonic. Like, he's the only person I knew who lived in Southern California. I was like, if you want to get together, we can get together and just have lunch. It wasn't like, let's get together and like have a one night stand. It was like, let's just have lunch, right? I haven't seen you in X amount of years, whatever it was. And he never replied. He never acknowledged it. There was nothing that came from it. And he didn't owe me anything then either. And I remember I wasn't mad at him. There was no like anger. I was just like, you know what? I need to just let this go. There's no reason for him and I to be in contact. He's moved on in his life. I've moved on in my life. I wish him nothing but the best, but I'm not going to keep this window open anymore. Like we dated at that point, it was 7 years prior, It's like, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to move past it. So then when he reached out, I was like, I had already been a year where I had been like, no, I'm good, like I'm super good. But then he didn't stop. Like he didn't stop reaching out. And then he sent me this long email. And I remember I was in San Francisco. I had been driving up the coast of California by myself. At this point, I had been traveling for a year and a half, 2 years by myself, like literally being guided where my intuition was telling me where to go, where source was like, this is where you need to be. And I was on this trip traveling up the coast of California, and I was in San Francisco, and I was literally to paint a picture for everybody, I was at the infamous spot with the houses where it's like the full house picture. Yeah. It's literally where I was at when he sent me this long email. And I was just like, why is this guy still emailing me? Like, I don't understand what's happening. And he basically like kind of professed his love for me. And I just was like, in my heart, I was just like, no, I don't care. Like, I'm good. I was very, very like adamant about this. And then what happened? And then again, 2 weeks later, he sent me a video. He's like, Kirby, I'm not giving up. Like, I mean, he was really like putting in the work. Okay. Yes. He's like, I'm not giving up on you. Like, this is how I feel. I have felt this way. I've never, like, I have all the, right. He gave me like all this stuff. And that was when I finally messaged him and I said, no, like, I don't want to reconnect. Like, I wish you nothing but the best, this and that. And then I like really like let it go. But it kept like weighing on me. So I was realizing that there was something a bit more there. And then I softened a little bit, and then I called him and I was like, why now? Like, what's the deal? And I was like, you just got out of a relationship. I know that's why you're reaching out to me. Like, I'm not that person, right? I'm this amazing, bomb, phenomenal woman. Like, I'm not your, second option or whatever it is. And it wasn't like that at all, but I kind of had to grill him a little bit, and then we just slowly kind of started reconnecting back in. But see, the point is that I had already made the plan that I was moving back to Mexico. I had been again on this alchemist journey. I found this amazing tiny town in Mexico, and I was like, I want this to be my home base, and then I want to travel from there. And that's what I'm doing. So this was literally February 2021. I was like, I'm moving to Mexico. Like, I don't know what you want. And I'm not going to be in a long distance relationship, And he thought, like, I was almost shutting it off because I was like deciding that was what my plan was. And he was like, let me come and see you and let's see if there's something here. He's like, I will fly wherever you are. And at this time I was in Austin. And I was like, fine, come to Austin. But I'm literally leaving in 4 weeks to go to Mexico. Like, I don't know what you want. He flew to Austin. We had an amazing week. He backed up with his actions, everything that he had been saying. And then I was like, listen, if you want to come to Mexico with me, come to Mexico with me. If we're meant to be together, then we're going to have this epic journey. If not, we're going to have a fun short time and then you can go on your way, whatever it is. And he did. He left everything. He had lived in LA for 8 years and he packed up all his stuff, sold all of his stuff and left. There's other parts into the story. It's the craziest story ever, but I'll leave it at that because I can go on forever. I'm a talker. And yeah, so then we moved to Mexico. Neither one of us had ever lived with a partner before. I had just gone from being single for 7.5 years to now I'm like living with somebody and we're both running our businesses from home. But it was like so amazing because anyone who works in the entrepreneurial space, it's so nice to have somebody to talk to who gets it,
Who
you
gets it?
know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he and I would be doing works at all different hours of the day. You know, you're always doing stuff at different times. You're constantly working when you're an entrepreneur, you know?
Yeah. 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 So
But
Kirby,
yeah.
I have two questions.
Hmm.
Thank you for that. Like, are you kidding me story? Uh,
Yeah.
I want to finish the loop on the values and then I want to go deeper into the story. So, values, obviously, one of them is like understanding what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Because if you don't understand that, it can be grueling. What are some other values that you really aligned on?
Absolutely. Yeah, the entrepreneur part was really nice. That wasn't actually something that I even realized that I would have liked so much, but it was a bonus.
Yeah.
We were both kind of like outgoing introverts. We're homebodies and we really enjoy like the chill. We're not like people who really, and I think also because we're giving so much in our businesses,
Yes.
that exerts so much of our energy that when it's the opposite time, we really enjoy the downtime
Got it.
together. And that's really nice. Living from like a heart-centered service place is something that's important to us. And again, we're both entrepreneurs, but we genuinely, and we were talking about this the other day and kind of like our family values now that we have a child together, that we want people to know us based off of the good integrity that we have as people. Like the way that we're known around town here is we're always going above and beyond to help other people or like, you know, what can I do for you and giving out to others because we know that that's coming back to us. Like we have a lot of people here who would have our backs in the drop of a hat because we're constantly just like, how can I help you with this and do this? And, you know, even just like the people who work in the restaurants and the locals, like they are our friends too. And we're, you know, it's like this circle, this cycle that we live in and like coming from this really service place and nurturing and loving place of like being in that way with other people and just not, and we also don't view ourselves as above other people. We view the world as like we're all people and we're all supposed to be working together
Yeah.
with each other to like make this world a better place. And we want to make the world a better place. And a big value in why both of us desire to have more and more success in our businesses is so that we can give more and more to more people. And we
Yeah.
can have more nonprofits to serve people and build homes and help people. And he grew up in the Bronx, New York City and very inner city. And he wants to show, you know, go back to help people of color and young boys and girls to know that like there's bigger things that can come, you know, like we really come from this service place of wanting to make this world a better place. Like we don't just talk the talk, like we walk the walk and people who see us in our lives, like they experience that. And we also receive that back from people because we live from that place. And it just, you know, really having those deeper core values with each other is just it's so much more important and it's and for us too like the other thing that I really love about our relationship is we are not materialistic at all. I mean, we are so minimal. Like when we moved down here into Mexico, every single thing that we own fits in my car that we drove down here. And even still since being here, we have the most basic, like we're not the type of people who are, and no shame to anybody on this, but I am just a very minimalist person. We're not like going clothes shopping every weekend. Like I don't even know the last time I didn't even buy maternity clothes, you know what I mean? Like we don't even like fancy wines or dinners. Like we're just very like chill, low key. Like I just want good nurturing food, connection with nature, like community. It's just like this really like old school way of like living and just the basics. Like for me, the little things are the big things. And for him, the little things are the big things. And that's what's most important here. Like I literally could have even a quarter of what I have now. And I would be so happy because the bare minimum is the most for us. Like we just don't need the extra fluff. And that's really nice and important for me.
This is beautiful. So I wrote down, you enjoy the downtime together. You both have this heart-centered place, a minimalist with the little things being the big things, this contribution service value from which to give generously and collaborate with each other and with your community. So I love this. I'm in a place that I furnished with a thrift store. I have things in pods in San Diego still, but where I am right now, I'm just like, and I walked in, I'm like, okay, so I got to furnish like a 1 bedroom. Let's do this. And it was kind of fun.
I love it.
I'm like, I need a fork. probably two, but that's just me. But let's get two just for the sake of, like everything. I needed everything, but I didn't need a lot to be happy. So I so understand that. I do
Yep.
enjoy um, sensuality and luxury. Like if I'm gonna have a piece of cheese, I want a nice piece of cheese. I don't need the whole thing of cheese. But if I'm gonna have a
Totally.
glass of wine, I really like a nice glass of wine rather than two
Yes.
from Trader Joe's. So I will say I'm an art history major. So quality I really do appreciate, but not quantity for the sake of a bunch of shit. Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree. And we're the same way too. Like we would prefer like the $25 bottle of wine compared to like the $3 bottle of wine. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like we do invest in that way into other kind of like luxurious style things. Like you said, the quality is very
It's
nice,
such
but
an
you don't
art.
need so many things when you
Yeah.
have like really good quality and whatever it is, whatever you decide that it's going to be. And also too, when I travel, I like to stay at nice hotels. That's something that he's learned from me. I was like, nah, I want the good, or whatever. Even like if it's possible to fly first class, like I do enjoy those things. Like I do like to treat us in different kind of ways, but having some like mansion full of junk is just not my way.
I hear what
Like
you're saying.
nature's my junk, nature's like that's what's most important to me. Give me a tiny house and like a huge lawn where I can just like roll around like a little hippie.
I
So
love it. I love it. Okay, so here's my maybe the like to maybe wrap it all together with who you are, what you do on the planet, and the rest of this. So first, me, I believe I'm here to teach what I'm here to learn. So I have an extraordinary track record of helping people heal their heartbreak and find the one, which is this one, which then aligns them to find the one on the outside.
yeah.
But shit, if I've been able to figure that one out for myself, right? So I've had two divorces, and the last one was, physical abuse, and there's criminal court coming up. Like and what I'm learning in my journey, kind of like you were saying, like you're drawn, your subconscious, which is like 95% of what's going on, is going to be drawn to what you knew growing up.
Yeah.
And so the deep work and the deep work and the deep work, like I keep doing the deep work, and I've learned so much in this last relationship for me that has made me forgive myself and stop shaming myself. Understand that this level of trauma, that's what it does. It just attracts more of what you know to survive it and get
Yeah.
better at surviving it and get better at surviving it. So I feel like I'm breaking the pattern so I can be both vulnerable and credible in what I teach. And so yeah, I am more grateful than I've ever been of the challenges because I'm finding the core root of it all and shifting it and coming home to me in a way that I never have before. Truly grateful that it all went down the way it did.
Yeah.
So that's my path, the way I look at the journey. So for me, I chuckle with total humility, okay? Total humility that I'm like, wait a minute. So we've got Miss Energetic here, Miss Akashic Record Reader here. Miss can read energy a mile away, but she can't read. She's like, no, don't want to date you. No, don't want to date you. I'm like, but he's the one. Like, what is up with that little stay in your head and do it according to this? Because to me, that's the funniest lesson that you're telling of this story,
It's so funny.
right? Because you know energy more than anything, but you wouldn't even listen or feel, maybe a better way to say it. That's just adorable to me.
It's hilarious, and in the energetics of it, well, because the bigger thing too is a lot of times when you're trying to attract in a larger thing that maybe you've never had before. I was calling in a relation, like a divine relationship that I had
Yeah.
never experienced,
Yeah.
we almost get tested a little bit from the universe to see like, hey, are you willing to settle on like old energetic ways that you're primed from, which is why like we can
Yeah.
continue to attract in the same kind of partner because we don't fully stand in our worth. We allow ourselves to settle in it. So the way that I was viewing it was not like I was directly attracting him in, because it was happening like so easily, the same way where I like wanted to bring in a partner, but I was viewing it as like, oh, I'm being tested. I'm being tested by an old partner because that's, to see, am I willing to like fall back to like my old lane of things? But he had shifted so much of himself. He had actually pivoted over to my alignment with my new kind of partner that I was calling in. Exactly. And but I was not even willing to like have a conversation, to see. So what I should have done looking back is allowed myself to have an interaction with him and see if there was any red flags. And if there was that aligned with the old version that I knew of him, then I would have known, oh yeah, this is exactly what it is. But for me, I was just trying to be like, I know this. I know what the energetic's trying to tell me. And instead I should have looked at it from a more open space and been like, hey, let me see what does he have? Because if it doesn't align, then it doesn't align. And I can still say no and pivot to my deeper aligned version, So it's just so funny.
Done anything differently, because it's all a beautiful lesson, especially with what you're here on the planet to teach, etc. I just found it very adorable that your very brilliant brain was concluding, by the sounds of things, a lot of things, rather than dropping into your beautiful body.
Yes.
It knows in the energy, which is what you teach. Because that's where I make my mistakes. Exactly what I teach. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I better walk my talk there. You're right. Good. Thanks for that one.
We're so humans. That's the thing. The end of the day, even when you're in it, we're all humans, man. And the 3D human experience is so much harder than like the energetic other experience. That's the easy part, which is like when you're in the human moment, it's not so easy all the time,
No, it's not, which I really appreciate how just instantly when we met each other, we're able to be vulnerable and own our credibility as well, but able to just go, hey, the human experience is quite the humdinger. Yeah, exactly. Well, I love that you surrendered, or I love that he was so persistent that he made you surrender. I don't know which way we want to look at it, but he followed his knowing. And I love his.
He did. He said like I could not, like it was just like pushing him so hard, and I just love that. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing. The synchronicities of like every piece of it, like if he wouldn't have trusted that, right? Like we both had to be in a place of trusting where we were at to kind of allow it to like finagle its way to this beautiful place. There's a lot, but for me also, I had never had anybody kind of like fight for me or like work so hard for me. So I think it was almost needed for me to see like, oh, he's like really serious and he's willing to like put in the work here. And I also kind of hate how our world is, where it's like there isn't so much of this. And I'm not like a flaily woman, right? I'm a strong, independent woman, which can be quite intimidating to any kind of man. Yeah. But there is less of a chase nowadays, where it's just like somebody's supposed to just be so readily available to you. And there's kind of that old chivalry way that I kind of miss a little bit, of guys being like, no, I want that one and I'm going to get her because I choose her, and there's something about her that's drawing me to her, and like that's what had happened with him. But I will say it, I won't go into it now, but his parents have a divine love story where it was very similar to ours. Actually, they were separated for many years, and his mom was in the States and his dad was in the Dominican Republic, and then they reconnected randomly on a weekend after 5 years of not seeing each other, and he was like, I'm marrying her right now, I'm not letting her out of my sight. That's what his dad did, and he did. The next day he went and married her.
Whoa.
Like insanely. Yeah.
Wow.
And they had the most divine merit, like life together. Like his dad knew, and he was so sure of it. And so it's very similar of what had happened. Again, the same way we can, live from our parents' traumas, we also can have the same kind of vibration of the good things too. And like, he felt that same type of way that his dad felt about his mom. He felt that way about me, and he didn't ignore that. He allowed himself to keep pushing. Yeah. He wasn't willing to let it go. And he told me, he was like, I knew that if I didn't go after you, then it would be the biggest regret of my life. And I would never know if there could have been a different outcome. And he was like, and if we didn't get together this time, he's like, we would have married different people, had families, and in 20 years, I guarantee you, we would have still gotten together because I never would have forgotten about you. So it's a very beautiful thing. He's a darling man.
Wow. And I can just imagine your daughter the whole time going, okay, you two, get it together. I'm ready to come in here. So can we make this work?
Exactly. That's the funniest part about it. It's so funny.
Beautiful. So 2 last things. One, I want to end on this, how do we get to this place of knowing, right? We all deserve to know what we know, whether it's romantic, personal, professional, what have you. But let's go there in a second. Before we go there, I know you have, you're this working from home, awesome, sexy mama entrepreneur. There's a membership you've developed, but I don't think it's ready yet, but there's a waiting list or something. So tell us what that's about.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my wait list is now open. This is kind of my first baby, and that's kind of how a lot of entrepreneurs feel and everything they do in their business. But basically it's the culmination of kind of my process of learning how to reconnect with your most authentic, aligned, highest version of yourself, which is exactly what I did in my life. Learning how to come back to this place of trusting your intuition, which is your innate job here on earth, and then starting to allow yourself to unlearn and tackle, all of the things and the programming, and really allowing yourself to unpack the layers that you are carrying energetically that is really stopping you from being able to live such an aligned, authentic life. And that is what I am teaching within this membership. And so yes, the waitlist is open. It will be open for a short amount of time until the membership officially launches. And also being on the waitlist allows you to be able to join for a discounted price. So you will be able to access and get in outside of the waitlist, but you might want to get on there because you'll be able to get a better offer.
Yeah, exactly. And so your site is kirbyb.com. Is that where they go to sign up for the waitlist?
It's not actually. You can, if you just go to my social media link in bio, either on TikTok or on Instagram, I would say that is where you would be able to access it. Or I can give you a direct link, Alana, and you can have that.
So listeners and viewers, I'll put this in the show notes and I'll get that from you after we finish our interview so that people get a chance to sign up for that. Beautiful. So you have a baby, and a baby, a new birthing from your business baby membership. Yeah. Well done. Lots of birthing.
Yeah.
Let's conclude with, so it's Pablo, right? Your husband or your partner?
Yeah.
His dad knew what he knew.
Yeah.
Pablo knew what he knew.
Yeah.
This feels good to be alive when we know what we know, right? And you were like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden you knew. So what would, it's in conclusion, to those that really want to know what they know and feel certain about those decisions and stop the second guessing and stop the hesitancy and stop the, but I don't know if I can trust because of what happened before, and really drop into that knowing, how can we complete this delicious conversation, helping them with that?
So I would say that first, get very clear on the type of partner that you want to have. In Pablo and his dad's case, I'm not sure that they had gotten, where they had written out a list. For me, I had written out a list on exactly what I wanted in my partner, down to little things and big things. One of the little things was I wanted a guy who had strong hands. For me, that's something that I just like in a guy. I like a guy with a strong jawline. The only thing that Pablo didn't hit on my list was being 6 foot tall. He's 5'10". But then I realized you can ask yourself, again, you really have to, doing the healing is so important here because you have to ask, are these things important because of my ego, or are they important because of they're actually necessary? Does it matter what height they are if they're the most divine person ever? No, it really doesn't matter, But in my case, I realized the deeper reason why I wanted a tall person is because I wanted safety. My soul was seeking that safe protector thing, not knowing that actually having a partner who looks me in the eyes and listens to me actually creates more safety than me having some burly man. You know what I mean? So you have to kind of break it down. I would say get very clear on the partner that you are calling in. Commit to healing and unpacking the whys behind what you are desiring, and continue the commitment to yourself. Like I said, even now, I don't have all of the time to do my rituals, but going back to when I was single, I had daily commitment of silence, of listening to what is coming up within me. When there was fears coming forth and I was questioning and doubting all of this stuff, I had to allow myself to unpack that. Those are the blocks that are not allowing us to fully embody our highest version, which is then going to be at the highest version for our partner. So you have to sit in those moments. You have to lean away from all of the coping mechanisms that our world has taught us are necessary. All the numbing tools, whether it's porn, sex, social media, food, whatever it is, wine, all the things. Lean away from those and lean back into yourself, exactly what you teach, where you have to come back to wholeness in one for you to be whole with another person. And it's the daily commitment that I had to myself where I allowed myself to continue leaning in. And then I also implemented, the hard stuff, doing daily breath work. I hated it. But you know what? I felt 1% better every single day. And
Mm.
I realized, wow, it was really letting me lean into it, or other, healing techniques and modalities. I kept leaning in. I kept allowing myself to grow and expand. And I kept learning how to fall back in love with myself. I hated myself. I suffered from severe anxiety and depression. I
Oh,
hated who I was, you know.
oh, that's
I
a
needed
strong word. Yeah.
to love who I was if I wanted to love another person. So you have to recommit back to your inner child and nurture that person internally to then
Yes.
be this high state where any man, woman, whatever that you want to attract is just going to be so enamored by you, which is what my partner was by me because I was so in my truth and my authenticity. So the
Yes.
biggest piece here is recommit to yourself. Choose to marry yourself
Yes.
and
Yes.
show up daily for him or her.
Mhm.
And like allow yourself to keep nurturing and nurturing and nurturing the same way. Like you got to view yourself as a little tiny seed that's out planted in your garden and you want tomatoes to grow. Well, guess what? Tomatoes don't grow overnight. You've
Yeah.
got to do the little pieces. You got to water, you got the sunlight, you got to have all the things, and you need to do that for yourself. And your why for why you want whatever outcome you want, whether it's a relationship, whether it's money, whether it's career, your why has to be bigger than you wanting to revert back to your coping mechanisms. Because
Totally.
let me tell you, I had all the things too, right? But I kept committing back to myself. And I would fall off the wagon and then I'd recommit back. And you would fall off the wagon. You got to get back on. You got to keep getting back on. And slowly but surely, and Pablo, we talk about this all the time, it's a snowball effect, right? The snowball keeps getting bigger and bigger, and then it just rolls on its own. And things finally do get easier. And you start really understanding and knowing yourself from like the biggest and deepest level possible. But it is a constant commitment to yourself. And even now, I said to him this morning, I come first for me. He comes second, and our daughter comes third. Even though I am 100% serving her, if I am not good for me, I'm not good for anybody. I have to be good too. And you can't give that up. No person is going to come and bring anything into you. You have to continue nurturing yourself, even when you get to the point of having the divine partner. And you will keep growing and expanding like the beautiful tree that you are, you know? It's just
I love it. We're so friggin' aligned. You're stuck with me, just so you know, okay?
forever.
Thank you. I concur 100%. And so viewers and listeners, you all know about my partnering app, Heartmates. It's Heartmates for singles and Heartmates for couples. Everybody goes through the first 6 months of Become the One, because whether you're in a relationship or you're not in a relationship, a whole person is required, just like Kirby's saying. And then it splits off into Find the One, right? Based on where people are on their journey. So I'm in 100% alignment with everything you say, and this is what's required. And we never get there. So it's always going to be like, if you stop watering the plant, it's going to die, people, right?
Yep.
So we want to continue the self-work. We want to continue the work as a couple.
Yep.
So I'm 100% aligned with you there. Well done. Well done. Okay, so listeners and viewers, there's a lot of gold in this. My request is you take a moment after this and you just take 5 minutes and you just feel into what resonated with you the most, what touched you and moved you the most. And I want you to do something. I want you to take an action, whether that's just breathe, whether that's take greater care of yourself, whether that's going to be an action that you do something later in the week, whether it's some journaling and really listen to yourself, but allow this conversation to have moved the dial, and that you'll never be the same again. And let our love, feel our love surrounding you, believing in you, because that's why both of us are on the planet, to show up and continue to serve you more. So thank you for the honor and privilege of giving us your time. Know that we love you. And please be sure you check out her wait list, get on the wait list of her membership. And those of you interested in Heartmates, heartmates.app. And if we can ever serve you more and you want to go deeper with your intimacy blind spot that might be in the way of these patterns continuing, our incredible intimacy breakthrough experience with Natalie, my intimacy success advisor, might be the next step for you. So alanapratt.com/connect is where you can learn more about that. And bottom line, the inside creates the outside. And Kirby's a beautiful example of putting herself first and coming home to herself. And it wasn't an easy journey to leave the family and travel all over the place and say no to Pablo, Lord knows how many times. But now look at her life now. Yay, Pablo! I really appreciate the inspiration that you be, and that your relationship is, and that we both had big tits, and just all the fun things that we've talked about today. It's been so good. So thank you all for being with us. I love you with all my heart. Thank you for joining us for another edgy, transparent episode. I invite you to dive deeper with our intimacy blind spot assessment found at alanapratt.com so you can stop unknowingly repelling the very love, intimacy, and connection you desire. Thank you for being who you are. I love the shit out of you. So until next time, I've got your back.